Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Weatherman podcast. I'm here with Josh Fish again. So, hi.
Hi, I'm Josh.
Today, we'll be talking about play to earn, GameFi, Web3 games, crypto games, whatever you want to call them. We believe that they'll be a big part of the future and a part of the passion-based income movement. And we're very excited to sort of dive in with this topic. So, Josh, what are your initial sort of experiences or touch points with these types of games? What's your first impression of?
I'm not too sure about them. A lot of the games seem kind of just a way to make money really fast or a promise to make money really fast by a lot of developers. And usually the games aren't too interactive or engaging, but we'll see in the future if that changes or not.
Yeah, so like potential's definitely there, but current opportunities are somewhat limited with sort of when you compare them to status quo games, we'll call them, they're a lot less advanced at this point in time, but a lot of the new games are sort of gearing up towards the metaverse, and how we integrate with that metaverse will definitely change in the future, I reckon. One of the sort of big sticking points, well, not sticking points, but the big sort of value add for gamers is the whole earning side of it. Somewhat limited, especially if you're in like a developed country, for sure. But in countries like in Southeast Asia or in Africa, where cost of living is probably equal to $10,000 US a year, these games can, fund a lot of that income that you need in the instance that you don't have a job, and economies can struggle, especially in developing countries, and especially with things like COVID. And that's sort of one of the big drivers in the recent popularity with these games. People in developing countries, especially Thailand got a big sort of uptick in this gaming industry. And
yes,
they were able to sort of offset the COVID crisis as it relates to income with these games. So there's definite upside.
Could you explain what a pay to earn game is?
Sure. So normal game is, FIFA, Call of Duty, you play, you have fun, all that good stuff. Play to earn games are sort of geared in a way for you to earn cryptocurrency or NFTs, or both. Best examples like Axie Infinity, it's probably one of the biggest ones right now. You sort of buy monsters and you battle against other people's monsters or the CPU, and you get small love potions, which is a cryptocurrency. And the monsters are NFTs. So you can buy monsters, you can breed monsters, and you can accrue value in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, how is value created for these monsters and cryptocurrencies made within these games?
Okay, well, with the monsters, I would say the value is created with how good they actually are, their competence or their merit, right? Like the price of a monster is proportionate to how good that monster is, right? With the cryptocurrency, like it's almost completely based off how much people are willing to pay. So the monsters are NFTs with clear use cases in the game. And usually to breed monsters, you need small love potions, which is the cryptocurrency, to actually breed them. So there's sort of a specific use case for that token.
Yeah. So are crypto like tokens or currency just a way of just like in-game currency, like any other game, like let's say like gold or whatever, like in-game gold? Is it the same thing?
Well, yeah, it's an in-game currency for sure, but it has the bridge. Usually the bridge between like an in-game currency and sort of our like separate currencies vary one way. We can only put money into a game, but we can't get it back out. whereas this sort of movement is sort of has effectively made that relationship a two-way street. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I would like to go against that though, because for years games have had in-game values, but real world conversions. Like for example, CS:GO, one of the biggest games in the past decade, had in-game skins, for example,
Yeah.
which were converted into real money. And like right now, there's skins in that game that go for hundreds of thousands of dollars and like tens of thousands of dollars as well.
Yeah,
And you can like still claim that money back from the game.
there's definitely like instances where like you don't need blockchain to do this stuff. But I'd say the blockchain helps with scalability primarily. And also I think it also assists people with like onboarding into crypto in general. And these currencies have utility in terms of DeFi and other NFT use cases. So I'd say that the ecosystem has potential to be bigger than, say, like the CSGO example. And also, like CSGO is kind of rare in that, like you'd never see like a FIFA game or a Call of Duty game where, you know, you can get that money out very easily. Like, I feel like that's much like it's right now, it's kind of like the exception rather than the rule. Would you agree?
I think it's a actual like standpoint by the developers. They've chosen not to include it
Yeah.
instead, because basically if like say for FIFA, like EA, for example, a lot of their games, they want you to do in-game purchases.
Yeah.
And that's like a transaction, and that's the way they can generate money as well.
Yeah.
But if you start taking that money out, it's a bit harder to say how much money the company's actually made from those in-game purchases. And as it gets traded across on like a market. So I think it's more of the business standpoint
Yeah,
of not
absolutely.
including that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of like one of the biggest sort of competitive advantages for the crypto games, if they can sort of level the playing field in terms of actual like the actual merit of the games. Like, are they as engaging as a CS:GO or a FIFA or a Call of Duty? They've sort of aligned their incentive structures more with the game and sort of shared value with them. And I suppose like they can attach transaction fees and royalties with their NFTs, which is something that we spoke about in previous episodes that you can do. So it like I don't think like the old breed of games is dying, but I definitely think that there will be a lot more balance in terms of play to earn versus just play. And EA and Ubisoft have already talked about adopting these sorts of incentive structures, and with the blockchain technology, like they've sort of included it in their, not really a roadmap, but they said it's coming. So they're big believers of the space as well, which I found interesting. I think it's one of those like adapt or die things for them. Maybe that's probably how they see it. So yeah, I think like it's good for gamers, and especially once you start attaching other use cases to whatever token that you're owning, whether you can, you know, it becomes a virtual reality world and sort of in a metaverse game, and you essentially live in that world someday in the future. So that the value in that is the future sort of utility of that currency. Or you could just make it a lot more symbiotic with sort of DeFi and use the currencies for loans and stuff like that. So like there's clear potential in the value, but it's not always backed up with sort of like rigorous economic planning, I'd say. But there's definitely potential. Cool. Opportunities in the space, like you can build the games and you can, you know, help develop them and advise. That's obvious. You can play the games. That's also obvious. I think, yeah, we don't really need to go too much depth about that unless you have something specific to it.
I think there's an opportunity for like lazy developers to make a lot of money right now through
Yeah.
play to earn games.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the games that are coming out are very easy to make and you can make them like within a day.
Yeah.
So, and then if you get like a community behind it, which is usually people that are looking to just gain a lot of money really quickly, these like pay to earn games have like a massive inflated value.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one big opportunity for a lot of developers right now.
Conversely, because the standard of games is so low right now, if someone does it properly, they're going to have a pretty big first movers advantage in terms of high quality play to earn games. They can definitely snap up a lot of attention.
The only thing with that is though, I reckon right now a lot of like massive games like Among Us or like Fall Guys aren't actually that hard to make compared to some others such as Battlefield or Call of Duty. But we're seeing right now that those easier games to make are like more addicting and like more fun compared to those like massive titles.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. I mean, like my brother just started playing Axie Infinity like a week ago and now he can't get off it. And like he and I like grew up, like we played Pokemon, played Yu-Gi-Oh, like card games. We were into that sort of like monsters battling other monsters sort of stuff and training your Pokemon and stuff like that. So there's definitely parallels or equivalencies to those sort of big brand titles in terms of, monster games are usually pretty fun and like usually pretty easy to recreate.
Yeah, the biggest one right now, I think, is Hearthstone with those card game battles. Yeah. Definitely.
There's even like there's a fantasy football one, which I was interested to find out, but actually, it hasn't been done too well. Sorry, a lot of my viewers, you don't know, I'm a huge football fan, so it's right up my alley. So I'll be watching out for that one in the future to see when that upgrades. Yeah, I'm keen for that for sure. Other opportunities, probably the biggest one and one that people don't really know too much about is gaming guilds, which basically when you start playing these games, there's usually some kind of monetary barrier to entry. Like there are free monsters on Axie Infinity, but they're actually like pretty bad. So you're going to have a tough time actually earning on Axie. In Sandbox, you have to buy land. With any of the metaversal games, you have to buy land. So the workaround for this, for people who don't have the capital to actually get started, especially when like a plot of land on Sandbox is like worth $5,000 minimum, is gaming guilds. Now, what are gaming guilds? What are their function? How do they operate? Usually they're set up with like a DAO structure, but they don't have to be. If you don't know what that is, check out episode 2. We went in depth on DAOs, but their functionality is basically they rent out, the gaming guild buys the infrastructure for whatever that game might be. So for Axie, it's a good monster. For Sandbox, it's a plot of land, so on and so forth. And they rent it out to new gamers who want to play the game. And in return, they get a split of the revenue that the gamer earns. So let's bring it back to Axie because that's the easiest example. YGG, they're the biggest gaming guild, or most well-known for sure.
Could you explain what YGG is?
So YGG is a gaming guild.
Okay.
Are we good up until this point?
What does YGG stand for though? Does it stand for
Yield Guild Gaming or Yield Guild Games? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're a gaming guild. Are we clear on? Well, I'll go through the example. Will be clearer. So YGG, they buy a monster on Axie Infinity for $10,000, right? Someone like you or me probably not willing to do that straight off the bat and start like earning lots of love potions, right? Because we don't have the spare money lying around for that sort of thing. So what they do is they rent it to somebody like us. And because we have such a good monster and we get it for free for no upfront cost, we play the game, we do well, We earn a lot of love potions, but as part of the terms and conditions for the contract of loaning that monster, of borrowing that monster from YGG, we accept a revenue split. So they get like 30% of the revenue of the small love potions that we earned with that monster. Does that make sense?
Yeah, when you rent out a monster, do you have to pay for the rent or is it free to rent out?
On Axie, the model is usually free to rent and you give them revenue. Because like if you think about it, like it makes more sense to do it that way because prices can be pretty volatile. So rent, like paying for rent might not be, there's not a lot of stable runway to pay for rent sometimes. So a revenue split is a lot safer for the person lending out the monster, I'd say. But in other instances, I'm sure there is sort of actual rental fees.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pick your own poison sort of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are gaming guilds. You can start your own. You can be a member of them and invest in them. You can be a community manager. Again, if you go back to the DAO functionality and all the roles associated with that, which we sort of dived into, there's a lot of alignment in terms of opportunity there on top of the play to earn stuff. So I think that they're definitely an interesting sort of byproduct of the gaming space. But again, the downside for them is probably when these economies collapse, these in-game economies collapse, their sort of profit margin gets diminished because the value of all the monsters or whatever the asset in question is goes down. So the barrier to entry is a lot lower. People won't be renting as much. But I guess that there's equivalencies to that in the real world, I'd say. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So do you think that play to earn games because initially I thought, these are pretty cool, you can earn money and all that stuff. And then I saw my brother start playing, wanting to play Axie Infinity. And he basically had to jump through all these loopholes with setting up the wallets and the exchange and, having this currencies and onboarding onto these different sort of main nets. I was like, oh, this is a great incentive to actually onboard people into the cryptocurrency ecosystem. Do you think that that's sort of the biggest upside? Like, say you're a proponent of Web3, do you think that play to earn is probably the best way to get people interested in being in the cryptocurrency ecosystem?
I think play to earn's just a facade to get people into crypto and continue getting people interested in crypto and Web3. I think the game is there, but it's kind of in the background. No one really cares about the game. I got a couple of friends that play to earn games and they don't really care what game they're playing. They kind of more care about what token they're going to get, how much they get for each token. So yeah, I think it's a big play just to get people into crypto.
You seem against the play to earn games. Do you want to?
I am against the play to earn games.
do you have a rant in your head that you just want to get off your chest?
Not really, because I don't actually know too much about them.
Okay.
But I think it's a way for businesses to get people on board and maybe get more innocent people on board. I know, for example, a couple of years ago, there used to be a lot of gambling associated with games.
Yeah.
And biggest thing with that was a lot of younger kids, kids under 18, were getting into gambling because of the games they were playing. And that had real world consequences, such as losing actual money and stuff like that. So I think it's a bit similar, as games are usually for a younger audience and they're a bit more innocent minded. So you could have a little kid make a MetaMask wallet and then link it to this game, but then eventually get stuck into a crypto rabbit hole and maybe get onto some scam projects or something like that. But yeah, I'm not too sure about the pay to earn games.
Okay, so okay. My question for you is, do you think that's a problem specifically with play to earn games or just the people who are developing them? Like who's your beef with specifically?
I think
Like, do you
it
think the
would.
concept is
It,
just bad or do you think it attracts bad people? Or is that
I
the same thing?
think the concept will attract bad developers that realize the audience that these pay to earn games like getting people into. So, like for example, how you said a lot of poverty-stricken countries are getting into these pay to earn games. I know it sounds bad, but people will use that as a way to kind of benefit from them and like use them as a tool to make them more money. So say you could like show that this guy in Africa is getting more money. It could be like a way to employ more people, and that could be a risk for that like person. But yeah, but there is the flip side where there could be good developers that use the pay to earn to kind of make maybe a game that they were making by themselves for a very long time to actually get wind and start like or making them money, but also other people money. But yeah, there's like
Yeah.
a two-sided thing.
Yeah. I think that's the general theme with crypto in general is that, it's easier to scam people because again, we keep going back to this. It's decentralized. So there's low curation. It's self-governed. So it's very much like when we start these sorts of projects that are meant to have proper use cases, there it's a very free market. So again, a lot of people get burned, but you also probably find out quicker that projects don't get protected as well. So when people do get found out, their reputation's screwed. The games essentially get abandoned, and I think eventually the cream rises to the top is what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I think
I
yeah,
think the developers will know that when they screw people over, they will be screwed, like get like taken out of the crypto space anyway. So they'll
yeah,
probably like think like opportunity cost wise, like if I make X amount of dollars, it's fine for me to leave because I've already made like a good amount. So that's like another thing. But there is good projects out there. It's just there is a risk.
so your main beef with the play to earn is just the scammers. Is
Yeah,
that
it's just the developers. That's the main beef. But also pay to earn as well. Like I think it attracts more scammers than good developers.
do you think it attracts more scammers and like good developers, like as opposed to other sort of crypto like use cases like DeFi or like we talked about NFTs and DAOs? I guess
Not
they're all
really.
interrelated. Yeah.
It's more compared to like actual like non-crypto minded like games.
Yeah.
Like a lot of indie developers want to make a game because not really because of the money, but because of they just like making games. A
Right.
good example is Notch, the developer for
Yeah.
Minecraft. Even though eventually he made like $1 billion at the start, there's a really good documentary on YouTube about how Minecraft is made. He's just a guy making video games for fun. This one game he made started getting a lot of traction. And usually he would stop making a game and go to the next. But then for Minecraft, it's like, oh, I kind of want to see this out since there's so many people riding on me to make this game. Like there would be definitely pay to earn developers like that. But since money is a thing in those games, it will attract a lot of bad developers, I
Yeah. I
believe.
honestly, when you build something that's actually that good and like people start like putting like you have like social pressure from people you quasi know to do well for the project, I think like you become a lot more attached to it. But again, there are cynical bad people out there. I think
Yeah,
that's in any space.
yeah.
Do you think like we talked about like the ease of crowdfunding with NFTs? Do you think like this is a much better way to actually start gaming projects as opposed to, I don't know, like do you know how funding works with games? I assume it's usually like some big venture capitalist or angel investor who you have to get on
Um,
board.
Right now, not really. I don't think you need a massive amount of money to actually make games.
Okay.
Another big, like there's heaps of examples of really big games that stem from like a small amount of investment, like money wise, being like Stardew Valley, FNAF, which is Five Nights at Freddy's. Those two games are made by one developer who was just making it in his free time. For example, Stardew Valley, I think was made over like 4 years, and it was just this guy who was unemployed, was trying to find a job in software engineering as he lived in Silicon Valley, couldn't find one. So he just started making this game. And then it just exploded when he found there was a community for it. So yeah. So I don't think there's a high ceiling to actually make games right now.
Okay.
But yeah. But pay to earn will definitely attract people that want maybe a steady income while making the game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Do games take a while to start making money? I actually don't know too much about it.
I think it does, to be
Yeah.
honest. A lot of indie games usually don't even make money
Yeah.
at the end. But yeah, a lot of games have a massive risk of you're literally not going to make money from it.
Yeah.
But
Even if they are big.
even if they are big as well. Like I think Slender Man, if you remember that one from like
Yeah.
2010, that was a free game on the internet. That was a like a scary game. And I think
Yeah.
that developer didn't make as much money as he could have because he just sold it for free. So yeah, pay
Yeah.
to earn will definitely attract developers who like want to have a low risk way of making games, which is like a really good thing. But just have to watch out for the bad developer out there.
Yeah. So it's not all bad, Josh. I think.
Yeah, it's not all bad.
Yeah.
But I reckon right now, because of the like massive hype around it, there could be a way for
Oh,
it to
absolutely.
go. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a deception phase. Like it's promising a lot, but it's not delivering enough probably right now. And
Yeah.
that's sort of like when you're in the early, like on it, that's the sort of the game of being an early adopter of anything. It's like the upside is so huge, but the risk is also pretty big.
Yeah.
You know, it attracts a lot of fraudsters and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like my risk appetite's pretty big, but I know
As
older
is mine.
people, your risk appetite starts to lower as you get older.
Cool. So from this discussion today, what sort of 3 takeaways have you?
3 big takeaways. There's a monster card game now. Weeby's brother keeps playing.
Axie Infinity.
Axie Infinity. Pay to earn games are good ways for like developers to kind of get their games out there. And also people in poverty can use these games to make a good standard of living, especially with Weeby's example of like an African kid where the salary for that year is like $10,000. You can definitely make more than that through pay to earn.
Yeah, like I know for a fact in Nigeria, in like Lagos, the cost of living is like $12,000 US. So if you can, make 30% of that with play to earn games, and there's definite upside. And it's a great way to onboard people into the whole crypto ecosystem as well, is what I'd say.
Exactly.
That was my biggest sort of takeaway. Cool. Anything else to add?
No, I think that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening today. And there'll be some podcast notes. Make sure you check them out in the description below, or if you're on the website, there'll be sort of a blurb attached. And yeah, make sure you dive into that. There'll be a lot of links to the opportunities that we sort of discussed, provide a manual to help you get started and stuff like that, if you're interested. And yeah, enjoy the experimentation. All right. See you, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.